line? No mic.
Hello, we have an iPhone that joined. Could you please identify yourself?
I'm assuming that you're talking to me. This is Rain Gray. Is that number 2034?
We have you on the line. Thanks, Rain.
Okay, very good.
It could be me. This is Kira Nielsen from DPS ending in 1091.
That was you. Thanks, Kira.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the good morning, members of the MAG Public Safety Answering Point Managers Group. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. The MAG public comment process allows members. I'm all over the map today. Backing up. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items on today's agenda or on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please fill out a white request to speak card located on the information table in the hallway and give it to MAG staff. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Okay, GMR and Kristen, are you on the line? Kristen is their new PSAP manager. Okay, Apache Junction, PD.
This is Jessica Kelly. I'm here.
Thank you. Arizona, DPS, Kira.
DPS is present.
Thank you. ASU PD, Trish. Avondale PD, Angela.
Avondale PD here.
Buckeye PD, Liz.
Buckeyes here.
Chandler PD, Stephanie.
Good morning. This is Stephanie. I'm present.
City of Maricopa, Linda. Fort McDowell, Stephanie. Gilbert PD, Kim.
Kim Weber with Gilbert's here.
Glendale PD, Loretta.
Loretta's here.
Goodyear PD, Shauna.
Shauna Henry present.
Luke Air Force Base, David.
David's here.
David. MCSO, Jim, are you on the line?
Jim Stillwell, good morning, present.
Mesa Fire, Nicole.
Nicole's present.
Nicole. Mesa PD, Lindy.
Lindy Gogo is present.
Paradise Valley, Heather.
Heather Beckwith present.
Peoria PD, Brittany.
Peoria PD present.
Phoenix Fire, Rain.
Rain's present.
Phoenix PD, Dan.
Here.
Thanks, Dan. Salt River, Dave.
Dave Martin present.
Scottsdale, Karen.
Present.
Surprise, Domala.
Domla Finney present.
Tempe, Dell.
Del Webb present.
Collison, Amanda.
Amanda Howard present.
Wickenburg, Aaron.
Present.
Is there anyone that I've missed? Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our next item will be a call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item, unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. Any requests to speak cards for this agenda item?
Chair, no public comments have been received for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Thank you. MAG also provides opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website 1 hour prior to the meeting. Staff, do we have any written comments for this item?
We have no written comments.
Thank you. We'll proceed to agenda item number 3. Approval of the December 8th, 2022 MAG Public Safety Answering Point Managers Group meeting minutes. The approval of the December 8th, 2022 meeting minutes. Does any member of the PSAP Managers Group have any questions or comments on the minutes? Prior to approval of this item, do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on this item?
We've received no public comment requests.
Any written comments?
No.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Shauna Henry, Goodyear PDL, motion to approve the minutes from December 8th meeting.
We have a motion from Shauna Henry to approve. Do we have some member to second?
Dave Martin, I'll second.
And we have a motion from Dave Martin from Salt River PD to second. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Staff, can you now take a roll call of the members participating virtually?
Apache Junction, Jessica.
Yay.
Glendale, Loretta Hadlock.
Yay.
MCSO Stillwell.
Aye.
Paradise Valley, Heather.
Aye.
Phoenix PD, Dan.
Aye.
Scottsdale PD, Karen.
Aye.
And Wickenburg, Hadley. Wickenburg?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Aye.
The motion passes. Is there anyone I have missed?
This is Stephanie with Chandler. Aye.
Stephanie, I'm sorry. Michael Chandler. The motion passes.
Okay. The next agenda item is the administrator report. Ms. Graver, 911 administrator, will provide this report.
Josh. So here are our totals for sends. We were 1 off from breaking the record. So last year we did 141 launches. I've noticed an uptick in Salt River's notifications. So that's always glad to see. Year to date, meaning since January, we've had 11. So we are on trend for another full year of sends launches. Text to 911. This is our first month, so our monthly average is the same. It's 1,092. Year to date, 1,092. Our previous year is another record-breaking year with 11,430. So we're still marching forward on growing each year with our text to 911 platform. The PSAP security checklist is where we annually remind the PSAPs, the national standards that Nina puts out. You received an email with in reference to it. And each PSAP, it's up to you to go back and evaluate your building and the needs that are in the NEDA standards to see if you meet that national standard or not. And then just a reminder, I've gotten many MIS reports, but I haven't gotten all of them yet. We need the reports broken down, and I need a copy of the report in a PDF for your 911, and then I need it for your administrative. So 2 different reports. And then we also have a request for the busiest hour report, but that is not one the state is looking for. That's more of a regional request, and some platforms are having a hard time running that. So if you can run it, that's fine, send it in. If you can't, if your MIS platform does not provide that, then that's something we'll have to take back to the governance to see if we can come up with a different report. But just a reminder to get those in so we can include them in our the grant proposal, because that's a requirement of the state. And Chair, that concludes my report. I'm sorry. Oh, Jim.
Liz, can you send out a clarification email on that? The ECATS reports are named a little bit different, and I want to make sure that the agencies are sending apples to apples comparisons as opposed to apples and oranges. I know the old MIS report names are different from the ECATS reports names. So could you send out a clarification with the ECATS report names that you're specifically looking for?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Graber. Do I have any further questions or comments from the membership? Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 5. The next agenda item is an update on the Emerging Technology Working Group. Ms. Graber will provide this update.
We had a meeting with the 911 oversight on December 15th, and one of the requests from that oversight group is to see if there are a way that the PSAP Emerging Technology Working Group could look to see what platforms are available to the region as far as doing type of video to the citizens, transcription of a 911 call, and any other add-on products that are being offered. We know we get them through Motorola, one of our vendors, but they request to see if it's possible to see what other options are out there along with what their capabilities are. So the Emerging Technology Group, as a refresher, is Avondale, Fort McDowell, Glendale, Paradise Valley, Phoenix Fire, Salt River, and Scottsdale. And after the Super Bowl's over, I'll send out an email, and what we'll do is we'll have our first meeting. And in that meeting, that group will decide who their chair will be. And then the discussion can be on moving forward on the 911 oversight's request.
Do I have questions or comments from the membership regarding any of this information?
This is Loretta. Do you already have some information that was provided to you, or are we going to research what's available out there?
I have some information, but I think it behooves us to do research as well.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to agenda item number 6. The next agenda item is a discussion on 911 funding and the state 911 grant. Damala Finnessy and Liz Graber will lead this discussion.
Good morning, everybody. So at our last meeting, I had shared that we were going to have a budget 101 meeting so that the members of the committee, or the working group, I should say, could get some more in-depth information and understanding about how the budget was working. Unfortunately, we did have a last-minute cancellation on that, and it's taken some time to reschedule with the differing partners so that we could all be in the room at the same time. That's been quite the challenge. And unfortunately, we do not have that meeting scheduled until next week on the 15th. But as we've been looking at the different budgets and stuff that we've been reviewing, the fiscal 24, the revisions of that, fiscal 23, where we are to date, it would be really beneficial for us if we could get some additional people to join that group so that we have a good amount of people putting eyes on this. So if anybody is interested, if that's even an option for us to request, we'd like to do that. I don't know, Brittany, if that needs to go through me or you, or how we need to properly handle that, but it would be helpful if we could get some more eyes on the information.
Damala, this is Loretta. Who do you have on it right now?
Currently it is myself, Tanya from Tempe, Brittany, and I apologize, I don't remember who took over for Lisa. Jessica with Apache Junction, and Nicole York from Phoenix Fire.
Isn't Nicole no longer with Fire?
Nicole York.
Oh,
Mason.
York. Okay, I'm sorry.
Said Phoenix.
Yeah.
My apologies.
But really, if you think about it, Damala, myself, and Tanya are really the most three active PSAT managers within these meetings. So it's kind of hard with just three of us having eyes on some of this. Karen Sutherland.
I'll join.
And if you need an additional, Shauna Henry's available too.
Yeah, are you ready for my question? I didn't want to interrupt you.
And then we'll add, just for notation points, Shauna said she would join as well. And then Karen, go ahead with your question.
Okay. So I'm looking at this 2023 budget that is up right now. And I'm also looking at the one that we had out on December 8th. And I'm a little confused on the numbers that I'm seeing. They're not matching. I don't know if that's something that Damala or Liz can speak to, but like on the December 8th meeting, the Mesa 3 additional positions show that the budget request was for 75,000 and that they spent 70,913.95. And the Mesa positions on this sheet show that 150,000 were requested and that 70,345 were actually spent. And I'm wondering why this one is twice the request as the one from December that showed what was requested.
Karen, the one in December showed the actual. If you look at our budget submittal with the grant, it shows 150. And if you look at the state approved, it's 150,000 as well. So we wanted to reflect that there was a savings of $79,000.
Right, but the one in December doesn't show that. It shows that 75,000 was requested and that there's a savings of $4,000.
Yeah, that was just a projection on from the quote, but but we had requested originally, and that's what's in our budget is 150,000.
Okay, just one more little clarification then. So when you showed us the numbers in December and it showed fiscal year 23 budget and the requested amount, wouldn't that be the same amount? That had to go in before the budget, correct?
So the grant is approved. What the state approved is, if you look in the second column at the bottom, the 9.7 million. So the state approved that monies that we will for our fiscal year 23. So that's the footprint that we have to work within. So in that footprint, it was 150. The fact that it came in lower is what was reflected in December, and I should have clarified that it was 150,000 was originally asked for.
Shauna, question also on the same subject. So looking at that, I have the same question though, because the numbers aren't the same. It shows 4 additional workstations for Goodyear PD submitted at 200,000. That was never the number. It was submitted at 250 and then reduced to 125. So where did the 200 come from?
I'll have to double check. That's what I had in mind, but it could be what we put in for, but all of it was denied. So.
Right. My concern being that the numbers are different.
Okay. Well, I'll double check on what we had submitted.
This is Kim Gilbert. I'm still a little confused why 75,000. I pulled up the December presentation. Why would that show 75 if the state approved 150?
Okay, so we put in 150 in the
Right.
grant and that was approved. The December showed what the actuals, it was closer to the actuals than what was submitted in the grant.
So in the December chart that you have, you listed fiscal year 23 actuals from Mesa as 70,913,095 cents. And you listed under the column fiscal year 23 budget as 75,000. What shouldn't that say 150,000?
Yeah, that's what I explained to Karen earlier, Kim,
Okay.
that it should have been 150,000 in that column because that's what we submitted in the grant. That makes sense?
So it was a clerical error.
Yes, Kim, it was a clerical error on my part. I should have put $150,000 in there. Anything else?
Actually, yes. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, and I understand clerical errors because we all make clerical errors, but this is concerning that when we look at the budget and it shows what was requested when we show up at one meeting and a different number when we show up at a second meeting, and they're both reflecting what was originally requested on a budget. That is concerning. It seems that there's 2 completely different worksheets that are being used here to compile budgets.
Understood.
I'm sorry, this is Kim Gilbert again. So I see that in the December spreadsheet, that same clerical error followed through for the Gilbert's logging recorder budget, as well as the 3 workstations that we're not pursuing. So is there 2 worksheets that maybe somehow the columns got mixed, or?
It could be. I'll go back and check and I can send a clarifying email out to all the PSAPs to show why that is.
Okay.
So those were pulled. That's why they show 0 is because those are not going to be
No, I'm
Purchase.
looking at the budget submitted.
the grant submitted.
But thanks for pulling that. I did have one question if there was nothing else on the budget spreadsheet.
So before we move on, then speaking to the spreadsheet, so I don't think anybody has a problem with the fact that there are errors on occasion. We all experience that and there's no problems with that. But I think when those are noted and this type of information then gets shared, it goes back to what we've requested. First of all, I think this doesn't cover the more detailed stuff that people have been asking to see. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing is, if this was to capture and notate somewhere those types of clerical errors that have been identified, that would be helpful as well. So then when we're looking at this and we see those differences, we're not having to ask that in this meeting. We already know from looking at the spreadsheet that that's already been documented and captured.
So Damala, are you wanting an itemized review of everything we do in every PSAP managers meeting? Or is that, I assume that's what the working group was going to do, but you're wanting it presented in here?
So that wasn't what the working group was asking for. Correct me if I'm misunderstanding. Everybody in this room was asking for that at the last meeting.
So you want us to go over every line item purchase of what we do?
I don't
in
think
the last
anybody's
2
wanting
months?
you to go over every line item. They want that information to be available. And that information's not been made available via these meetings. That's what they're asking for. We want to understand it so that when we do look at this summarized list, it makes sense to us, but we also know what's going on within our own agencies and whatnot.
So you want the itemized budgeting spreadsheet that we do, or the invoicing spreadsheet we do, to be put out every month with the PSAPs?
I think that would be reasonable.
We can do that.
Okay.
I just want to point, I think it's hard too when we're seeing different spreadsheets every meeting for there to be, again, it goes back to the trust and transparency of the differentiating numbers. And this goes back months ago when we've had conversations about the budget. Again, we've asked for copy or information on the amendments. I know Kim's asked for that from the last meeting. We still don't have that information that's being shared. And when we don't have the state to present and to show their side of the budget, I still, on my end, and I don't know about anybody else in here, I still don't even know if this is accurate. And I have a hard time even trusting the numbers when I consistently see a different budget between our meetings and even study committee meetings. And Karen can attest to that. So I don't know if anybody has any comment to that, but
So
that's where I stand.
So Brittany, besides putting out the itemized invoiced spreadsheet every month for the PSAPs to study and to have the working group review all of it, what other things do you want that you feel that will allow you to have more transparency?
Well, I think consistent spreadsheets through meetings, because we consistently see numbers.
So the working group will be able to review those. And so you'll look at it and say, yep, that's it. And we'll send it out. Besides that, what else?
I think as well, the state being able to show us on their end what's been submitted and what matches, because I think, again, we're seeing one-sided of information.
Well, we'll be happy to talk to the state. And I was going to say this in a later agenda item, that MAG is meeting with the state representatives to go over understanding what their role will be with Maricopa region. And so we can absolutely ask them to have a representative from the state speak.
I'd like to make a comment, please. This is Kim with Gilbert. So when we had our joint meeting back in October between the Oversight Committee and this group, the topic of communication and transparency was a huge thing. And Liz, you indicated that you were recommitting yourself to communicating to the group and being more transparent. And that has carried through the last few meetings we had where we're asking for this information. I concur with Damala, where you don't have to sit in this meeting and go line item by quote, by quote, by quote. But just like the meeting packet is sent out, having that transparency of what the budget, where our budget is and where it's moving from, is helpful to this group to educate ourselves on where we stand. And it comes down to, we've asked for quotes, where the quotes are reflecting all of these line items. I asked for the amendment last month or whenever we met. We still haven't seen the amendments. So I don't think it's a unfair ask to have that as a 911 administrator, that you provide that to this group where our budgets for our PSAPs are involved in this.
So I can send out all the quotes to everybody, but I did send them to the working group on that. Is that, Damala, isn't that correct?
Yes, so we got some within the last 7 days. But you're looking at me and giving me a look like I
think it
I'm
was more than
wrong.
7 days, but go ahead.
No, I'm pretty sure it was just
Yeah, it
7
was
days
just
ago.
I agree.
All right, go ahead.
And so because we haven't had that meeting, and I don't know what else gets sent out to everybody else and what everybody else is looking for. Again, as I've stated, and I'm not excusing it, the budget group hasn't had an opportunity to really delve into everything for me to be able to come back and say, hey guys, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. I don't have enough historical information to say what I got in an email 7 days ago is adequate to come back and challenge. I don't have enough information to do that.
And so next Wednesday, when we meet, we'll be able to delve into that.
Hopefully, yeah.
But I also think that all that still has to get pushed out and shared with the group as a whole.
Okay.
So-
So to what end then, just to help clarify for me, so when we send out all the quotes about everything that we get, then what do you see, Kim, as the PSAP managers? What will you do with that information?
Liz, from what I see in this is that you sent it to the working group, and thank you for participating in that working group, but they have another full-time job. My impression on this, and I may be wrong, not knowing what the vision of the budget working group is that as the 911 administrator, as the person that holds the budget and works the spreadsheets, that you have intimate knowledge of what you're spending, not spending, to be spent, that you report to the PSAP managers group on that and attaching that. So if you need, to me, the budget working group is you're going over the budget for the next fiscal year to make sure it's in line. Or if there's a question that you're being a second set of eyes, you're vetting the process. If I'm wrong in this, please speak up. But this is where I see you're the one, as our 911 administrator, you should take point in this.
But the quotes, that's what I asked directly.
Send the quotes, you send the
But what-
budget.
So help me understand what the PSAP managers, when you get all the quotes, then what is it you as a PSAP manager is going to do with that quote?
We can then look at your budget spreadsheet and see how things are lining up.
So you're looking at the bottom line of the quote to see if it matches the line. So you're not looking at what's in the quote.
I want to interject a little bit here. Sorry, this is Kamala. We've already hashed, I think, to death the fact that we haven't been as proactive as we think historically as we feel we should be now. And now that we are, we're seeing discrepancies, we're seeing things that don't line up, and we're questioning it. And all we're looking for are answers. We're not looking to blame people. We just want to understand. I think that goes to, I believe it was Shauna that was mentioning the difference in pricing of workstations. Well, as I start to plan and forecast for my future stuff, I look at what more recent people are paying for their stuff. And that helps me better align and lead my leadership in my city. But if Sean is getting quoted 40,000, somebody else is getting quoted 25,000, we need to understand why. And so that's where those questions are coming from. And we're just wanting to understand it.
So if we, and then I'd be happy to share all that information. I'm not hoarding it at all. So it sounds like the working group is going to have to maybe meet a couple of times a month. Is that a reasonable ask if you're going to review all this stuff and help understand it?
No, it's not reasonable. Kim pointed out I have a full-time job and this is just a piece of it. But what we are trying to do with the working group is to better understand the process a little bit deeper than everybody else so that we can come to the table and help explain some of these things. It's not for us to be the end all be all of making decisions as far as the budget goes.
Because it kind of sounds like it, but I'll be happy to do whatever. So when we meet on next Wednesday, you can come up with a plan of exactly how you want all the information executed to the PSAPs.
We'll come with an agenda on how we want to tackle it. Yes.
Okay.
And Shauna Henry, if I can add just one thing, I know part of the concern about the transparency is like Brittany mentioned, we're getting one side of the story only. I had the state listed on the agenda for being here today, but I don't see them here online. So I'm assuming they're not here. But I personally find it difficult to make financial decisions when the funding entity is not involved in the conversation. We are not given the information that we need to make decisions for our PSAPs when we're only getting one side of the story. Because when I look at the budget submittals versus the approved and the expenditures, that's great. But I don't know where those decisions came from, and I don't know how they were adjudicated on the state's end. You know, we
So
followed that grant process, but all we're getting is the information back from you
Yeah.
through your agency, which if there was more ability to trust that is accurate, if we were seeing the same numbers repeatedly, maybe it would be a little different. But at this point, I would like to see both sides of the conversation and have the information from their side.
So as I said earlier, the state, and we reached out to the state representatives from Maricopa Region, and they were not going to be able to make it this way. We're going to meet with them to see how they want to proceed, and we'll let them know that that's one of the desires, that they give a fiscal point of view on behalf of the state and the Maricopa Region spend. Is that what you're looking for?
So we can expect to have them participating more, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, but it's up to them, and we have to go by what the state's willing to do.
Kenwood Gilbert with a question, please. Is the chair and the vice chair going to be involved in this conversation since they are the leader of our PSAP managers group?
Not at the initial. This is just for planning and understanding how the MAG meetings will go. They can actually meet with them as well, but no.
So why have they been here in the past years? So why all of a sudden now we have to have a meeting to establish ground rules?
I can take it back to MAG. They're the one establishing the meeting. So if the chair and the vice chair want to attend as well.
I would
I'll have to check.
recommend.
Oh, hang on. Go ahead.
Liz, I believe this is mostly, there's been a change of administration, so there's changes taking place at the office. And we're just trying to orient them into our process here. Like, this is the committee, this is how it works. And it's more a logistical meeting than an actual intensive discussion meeting. So I think it might be not as productive in that setting. And then it might make sense to have a second meeting that's more about policy and direction. Is my understanding correct, Liz?
Yes.
So this is mostly logistics. Who is our contact going to be? This is how our governance process works. And so it's more a logistical and orientation meeting.
And logistically, I would say that it makes sense that our chair and vice chair who are leading our group be a part of that discussion about the logistics of how these meetings are run. Is that not an accurate thought?
We can certainly talk to them about that. It wasn't policy how it's run. It was more like you show up and this is the organized body and these are the people who are represented at these different levels.
Correct, but we are the representatives of this committee. You guys are going as MAG staff. We are the chair and vice chair of the committee. Again, I think that's going to probably filter into maybe later conversations, but I think this group's been broken for quite some time. And we all need to look at is what's the purpose, goal, and vision of this group? Because we're coming and sitting at a table for what? What are we accomplishing? Because we're really not accomplishing much, because I feel that certain people sitting at the table in MAG continually go behind our backs to have conversations, make decisions, not for the good of us PSAP managers. So what's the benefit and for the good of our group for what we're doing and sitting at the table, and preventing some of us from having conversations? Our contacts at the state haven't changed. Travis and Gerald are still sitting in the same chairs that they were sitting in a year ago, 2 years ago. Those contacts haven't changed. So I have concern over that. And I don't know if anybody else sitting at the table has concern about that or wants to speak up on that, but I just feel, what's the goal and the vision and the purpose of the group? Because where we brought 250 questions back to MAG back in October that we were told were going to be addressed and specifically identified, there's been zero follow through on that.
So, Audrey, can I jump in here real quick? So we're following the state's leadership on who is over the liaison. So I know that a lot of you have close relationships with Travis and Gerald, but we were instructed by the director's office, and it still stands because we double checked, that they are focusing on the rest of the state, and that our representatives are Lisa Marshall and Mike Gurr. Now, that's the state's direction. MAG didn't say anything to them. I did not say anything to them. That was the state's choice. So,
I'm sorry, this is Domla, clarify those names for me because the email we got from MAG, I believe said Tobin was our contact. Has that changed?
yeah, so Tobin was the director of ADOA, the Department of Administration, and that's a governor appointed position.
Okay.
So when we had a new governor, those positions all get released and they appoint new ones. And so we checked after that Tobin left to see if that still stood in place. And we were told by J.R. Sloan, who is the head of assets, in which Travis and Gerald's office falls under, that would stand for now.
And so since MAG is the one that put out that notification to us about Tobin, when it changed, did I miss the notification of the new contacts? Because I
hasn't
wasn't aware of
changed.
that. You just said it has. The
No,
names.
if you look at the Tobin one, it was Tobin, Lisa Marshall, and Mike Gurr were our contacts. Those were the original three when Andy Tobin put that out.
Okay.
Thank you. Karen?
So I want to comment on what Brittany was just talking about. And I had it marked that I was going to bring it up for a future agenda item, but since it's on the table, I'm going to go ahead and speak with it now. One of the questions that I had was, I think that we need to clarify the purpose of our committee. We have a committee that for the last, say, at least 9 months has struggled to make headway. Some of the points were already brought up, but the committee makeup itself, generally speaking, in any committee that I've been in, the committee has some control over inviting people to an agenda, setting agenda items, what is going to be discussed in a committee. In this committee, we have been told what we can and cannot talk about. Certain things have to go to a different group and we can't bring them up in committee meetings. We haven't received answers to things that we have asked for. And I'm really wondering, as Brittany said, how beneficial this committee really is. It seemed like the only thing that was really desired of this committee was to pass a budget. And when we had questions about that budget, it was forced through anyway. And I think that that's something that we need to put on the agenda and have a conversation about as a group, and whether or not this committee as a part of MAG is the best course of action for us as PSAT managers to really be able to discuss the situations that we have, be able to discuss them with the people that we want, not worry about if there's too many of us in a room, not worry about complaints that come to our city. Just we want to be able to talk and work things out. And I feel like we've really been stifled.
So, and Audrey or Chantel, correct me if I'm wrong, but regional council sets the committees.
Yes, regional council does appoint people to the committees based on the recommendations of the agencies.
Correct.
Basically, so the cities choose who they're going to send, and then they get appointed.
And the makeup of what committees are in as part of MAG, do they, is that a regional council decision as well?
Regional council created the original committees and the scope of those committees. Chantel, do you have any more information to add to that? So we can do a presentation on how the committee was created and what its scope was. Obviously,
Point of order.
Changed by those committees, but this is not my complete area of expertise, and so I would prefer to defer that until Nathan gets back.
Okay, we can, and that's something we can do to help evaluate what the fact that what the PSAT Managers Committee's goal is and what the future looks like for it. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, so I've had my hand raised since Karen and Kim Weber were first asking our initial discussions. And so I'm trying to follow an orderly meeting. But if I'm going to sit here for 20 minutes, not being acknowledged, I'm just going to start calling out. With that being said, I call for a point of order. We're on a budget subcommittee work group, whatever you want to call it, agenda item. We've strayed way far away. There's a lot of stuff we can discuss, but it's not under this point of action. What I wanted to discuss, and if you guys remember what was being said and what we were talking about, one, regarding the budget submitted column and the approved amounts column should never change. Those should be enacted at the very beginning and they should stay steady throughout the year. I recognize that manual entry errors occur. I also recognize that utilizing an Excel spreadsheet is 1990s financial technology. Excel spreadsheets can have different versions, especially if multiple people are working in that workbook. Why are we not using some type of accounting software, especially when we're requesting a $12 million budget and we're being approved for an almost $10 million budget? If you ask anybody out there that's dealing with that much money, they're going to tell you they're using some type of professional accounting software. It's going to make sure that those errors are minimized as much as possible. In addition to that, I think that we as a group need to form some type of financial audit work group or subcommittee that actually has some teeth. I think that especially after the occurrences from October until this point, a lot of these member agencies have realized that the 911 System Administrators Organization, as well as the MAG oversight team, really tries to hinder and not address issues or concerns. And so we need to have somebody that has the ability to audit our financials and issue repercussions. And then along that same line is that I want to make sure that all of our member agencies recognize that the 911 System Administrator position is not set under state statute. It is selected from the group. And so if we as a group feel that Phoenix Fire is not handling those 911 administrator functions to what we expect to receive, we as a group can remove Phoenix Fire as the 911 administrator and select a new one. And I'm done talking. I'll get off my soapbox.
So just to clarify what you're saying, Mr. Stillwell, is that the regional council will be the one that is the contracting agency. So through your recommendations, if that's the way this PSAP goes, you recommend to the regional council that you want Phoenix Fire not to oversee 911, just clarifying, make sure we're all clear on that.
Produce that in statute.
You mean in the MAG policies?
I mean in any type of law, any piece of legislation, be it state, county, local, that says that authority has been given to them.
So I think it's part of being a member of the MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments. So MCSOs, not MCSO, but actually Maricopa County's representatives are part of the Council of Governments. So that is something they voluntarily joined.
I believe that's correct. Like I said, this is a little outside of my area of expertise, but there is a contract with Phoenix Fire, and so action on the contract would be taken through.
I believe the contract you're referring to says that they're going to maintain the system. It does not say that they're the system administrator. And so if you can produce something on paper, an agreement that says that they were selected as the 911 administrator, I would like to see that.
And like I said, this is not my area of expertise, and I would be happy to look into that for you. I can't give you a definitive answer on that right now.
So Jim, your comment on the financial audit, is that something that you want the budget working group to have discussions on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Damala and I will take that to the working group next week. Do I have any other further questions or comments while we're on this agenda item?
There should be another slide. So this is the fiscal year 2024 grant updates. And they have not opened the grant as of yet, but I wanted to make sure that you saw that there were adjustments that needed to be made. The items that were removed is the first column, and those are basically having to do with Wickenburg and Gilbert's projects were all removed from the grant. And then we had to adjust the items. Peoria's original cost for their upgrade was $532,000, and with the latest quote we got, went up to $811,000. So adjustment of $279,346.45. Phoenix PD, they had their equipment and everything is being purchased in this fiscal year. The $844 has to do with the services that will come when they install. That was part of their request to be able to split the cost of their projects over 2 fiscal years. And the licensing for the 911 map for Esri is the base map that is the one that is used. We had 50,000 and it actually came in at 67 for the annual support, 67,000 with a difference of 17,000. So that's what a budget item we faced this year. So in next year's budget, we wanted to be able to meet that. So we're not in the red again. And we added 17,000 to that. So with the adjustments of removing Gilbert and Wickenburg, and then adding the necessary things, our new fiscal year grant came in at $8,831,185.46. So it's gone down.
This is Damal. I have a question on that. So we're talking about these changes, but we're still currently waiting to see what the state have said for what we already submitted for fiscal 2014. So is that correct?
I'm sorry, fiscal year what?
20, I said 14. Sorry, 24, fiscal 24. If we're still waiting for them to approve what we originally submitted, and we already know these changes need to be made, and we're still waiting for them to give us that decision, how long do we know or how soon do these changes get submitted and then determined?
The grant hasn't been opened yet. The state is looking to see the results of the consultant study. And we're assuming so that it hasn't been opened yet. So nothing's been submitted fiscal year 2024 to the state at all.
Okay.
So this is what we approved that went through the MAC process for our fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
Questions?
Do you have a question? What drove the cost up for Peoria?
The addition of the components for smart transcription, citizen input, and the support data. So we had them requote it, so it would be part of it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
Kim.
meant to ask this a few minutes ago, but with Damla's comment about giving the details of the budget, can we please establish, and it's fine if you meet in the budget working group and then establish the timeline, whether it's the first end of month, 15th, whatever it is, can we have a date that we can expect these documentations to come out instead of being said in this meeting and then it's almost as if it's forgotten? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, this item was on the agenda for information, discussion, and possible action. We'll now move to agenda item number 7. It'll be discussion on the 911 alternate routing needed on a regional level as part of the NG 911 Core Services Project. Vice Chair Karen Sutherland will lead this discussion.
Hey, Brittany, I don't have any updates on this. We haven't met since our last PSAP manager meeting. So I have no updates on that. I will have some updates later when I report on the Super Bowl plans that we made.
Thank you, Karen. Do I have any questions or comments from the membership reference this item?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Kim.
So when is Maricopa Region, can they expect to be transitioned over to the new EZNet?
We haven't been given a date.
Do you have a reason why, explanation of what's causing the delay? Because I think we were supposed to have gone last
Right.
fall.
So we were moving forward and the state put us on pause. We had a project meeting on January 9th with the state and with the vendor project, and the state again told us it was back on pause. So until the consultant study comes up, they're holding everything up.
So I asked when it was first announced it was on pause for the reason why, and if you couldn't comment on that, is there an explanation now as to why it's being paused or waiting for a consultant report?
That is what they gave us on August 9th. They've never given us a reason why. And I know that, reached out to Director Tobin to get clarification, but they never gave us any at that point. And on this call, it was because they're waiting for the consultant's report to see which direction the region goes.
And yes, I did reach out to Director Tobin because we were not getting an answer from this group nor the NG 911 working group meeting as to why an integral part of our technology in the region is being paused for no explanation to this group.
They didn't provide us with one, so that's why I couldn't give you that.
Okay.
And whether you believe it or not, it's the truth.
Any other questions or comments? We'll move on to agenda item number 8. The next item is a discussion on topics discussed by the 911 oversight team. Kim Weber will lead this discussion.
Thank you, Chair. And this actually is related to item number 5, the Emerging Technology Working Group, and what Liz shared about what that group will be discussing when they meet. I was listening to the December 911 Oversight Committee meeting, and I was a bit alarmed by what was being discussed at that meeting. And I want to make sure that it's brought forward to our group to have a discussion and awareness and understanding of what we want as a group. Kind of speaks back to what is the point and purpose of our committee? What are we doing here? So at the December 911 Oversight Committee meeting, Michelle Potts, who sits on that committee, made the following statement. She posed the question to the committee as to whether they want to, as vendor specific, as add-ons, is there a benefit to stepping back and having a discussion on what supplemental technology do we want to bring to the region? What supplemental technology that's really the best that's out there, not just additional to existing equipment? And what do we want to take to the state, what they are willing to pay for? She states, if we're looking at budget considerations, budget concerns, should we be taking a step back and evaluate what industry partners are out there? And is this the best direction for the region? She's referring to Vesta's smart transcription and citizen input. She continues to state, should we be evaluating anything that is supplemental and doing the research? Because she states that Vesta add-ons were just an easy answer. I find there are several concerning aspects of this comment. First off, though, is that a discussion about technology that impacts our PSAPs, in my mind, should come to this group first. We are the PSAP managers that have the most vested interest in what is put in our PSAPs and what affects our dispatchers. Should we not, as a group, have that discussion first at this level and make recommendation whether it moves to the next level, which is what the oversight committee is. That's the level above us. My take is it should. We should have the first say, first discussion before anything is brought beyond that. The second thing that I find concerning is that she makes a comment that PSAPs are just jumping over to Vesta because it's an easier answer. And I know my peers, I know what you guys do, what you're passionate about, and what you do for your PSAPs. And I am 100% sure that those PSAPs that chose Vesta did not just pick it because of an easy answer. Vesta won in the RFP because they have shown that they have better product than the other vendors that are out there. The other thing is that Ms. Potts makes a comment about there are many third-party vendors out there that we can use, and hence her recommendation that the Emerging Technology Working Group look at these third-party vendors as options that the state could pay for. So from my perspective, and knowing my employees, and you guys will have to chime in on what you know your employees want or not, none of my dispatchers want 10 different applications on their desktop. They do not want to have to log into 10 different things. And to have to log into a third-party application for a video chat with a citizen or anything else when it's readily integrated into their 911 phone system, I can tell you that is not something I would do to my employee. And with all the challenges that you have with retention and keeping people and training them and making sure that they are healthy in their work environment, why would we as managers place them in a situation where they have to continually have to add on application after application? So I think that is a comment that if the discussion was brought to this group first, that would have been brought out on the table. That we may not want more third-party vendors. If you want to go out there and pay it for yourself, fine. But what is going to be best for us? And to refute the fact of, the state's not paying for any third-party solutions, there is already a third-party solution that the state pays for. It's Rapid Deploy. You can do video calls with your citizens on Rapid Deploy. You can text with them on there. Whether you choose to or not is up to your agency, but it's already paid for. Chances are a lot of agencies aren't using it because it is more clunky, more cumbersome to have to try to navigate another window screen, CAD, and then phone. So those are my thoughts and comments. I wanted to bring it forth to you all what your thoughts are on that expectation that we as a group need to be empowered to have these discussions that affect our PSAPs.
This is Damla. I'll comment on that. So through a different conversation I had this week, I went back to the MAG website and it does play into what was spoken about earlier about what is the point and purpose of our group, right? So I think that might be the very root of what we need to get back to. But on the MAG website, there are 2 sentences that detail what our group is for. And I apologize, I had to look at a different document. So it says, we are to see the technical needs, oversee the technical needs and coordination of the 911 system. And so to the heart of what you're saying, yes, I agree. We should be the ones initially vetting and looking into those technical things. But I also think that that plays into having the state at the table, because if they're the ones paying for things, then that needs to be vetted with them as well. And so that technical discussion should start with us. And I'm 100% in support of what you're saying. That's why I've been reluctant to implement all the different things that we speak about technology-wise, because how much can my employees handle? And I haven't really looked at it from the retention and the wellness. The wellness, yes, not so much the retention, but certainly additional reasons why we want to look at making sure what our people have in the center is effective. And it would be so much easier if we were all using the same thing, but everybody's always looking for the next latest and greatest. I'm not. I want something that's useful and going to support what we do, right? The very purpose of what we do. So yes, I agree. It should start here.
Mike Benjamin, go ahead.
The I had a question. Rapid deploy is now a possible video and or real-time chat provider. Is that what is being presented by the committee at this point? I think Kim mentioned that.
So it's not presented as an option. It already is an option that is paid for by the state. And I believe, don't quote me for the timeline, but it's been available for a good part of a year, if not more. And I have implemented it. I'm actually one of the later adopters of it. I know other agencies rolled it out before I did, but it was kind of the same thing. My staff got used to Rapid SOS. Rapid Deploy does very similar things with it. So what was the benefit of now introducing another platform for them to have to try to learn and integrate into the 10 other screens that they have up? But after doing more research into it, there was a benefit to that. So I did deploy it to my staff, gave them the option. You can use Rapid SOS or use Rapid Deploy. The benefit of Rapid Deploy is, guess what? You can initiate a text to the caller if they're not responding to you. And we have had success stories in Gilbert of being able to help our citizens by using that aspect of it. I have personally opted not to turn on the video feature yet because there's policy concerns, there's legal concerns on that we need to establish since it is so very new. And with my eventual upgrade to Vesta, not sure that we need to turn on the Rapid Deploy video. So, but it is there if you want that third party. You can work and pursue, establish your policy and your trainings around that.
Is that an item that the PSAP working group, the Emerging Technologies Working Group has ever discussed? I mean, if it's been available for years, that working group's been standing longer.
So your comment makes me feel that everything we put in our PSAP needs to go through that group. Is that what you're saying?
If it involves the 911, whether it be oversight or the PSAP managers working group or what you want us to work on, if you want us to give us direction on what you want us to work on, would it not make sense to run it through the governance and the working groups that are established in this group? I guess I don't understand why those are ignored. There's a governance group, there's an education group, there's a budget working group, but the budget working group is not able to meet. The Emerging Technologies Group is not brought in to discuss this. What you're saying is a valuable new technology that's available. So what is it that you want us to work on? Where are we supposed to get that direction if you want to direct us to do that?
So
how is that governance to work? And then if you want, everyone wants the state involved in so many different items, but the state group has, I believe, essentially zero technical depth or experience in managing budgets. They have no experience managing technology life cycles or bringing new technology into 911. The latest that they've done was to finish an RFP, which took a lot of outside help for them to do. They don't have a deep bench of people to help. So looking at this committee and all the working groups that theoretically could operate under this committee, there is much more depth and many more bodies and apparently much more passion for it here. Where are the results of that?
So Shauna Henry, Goodyear PD, I think you're misunderstanding what the information that was put forth. Kim didn't state that everything needs to run through here. She stated that it wasn't appropriate for technology to be proposed to a group above us before we vetted it. As PSAP managers, we have the right and responsibility to bring technology into our PSAPs that benefit our citizens and our employees. Continue to do that. Whether it runs through here or not depends on whether it's a regional situation. The fact that the state has supplied Rapid Deploy makes it regional. It's statewide. That's why those discussions maybe belong in here. But I don't think that's technology that needs to be vetted through your team. We aren't asking you to maintain it. That's being done through the state's contract. So I think that your comment kind of strayed from the topic of where is it appropriate to introduce regional technology in this setting of the MAG committees.
Jim Stowell, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, building on kind of what Shauna just said is that I see that committee as recommending items that could have a regional benefit. Going off of what I believe Mike is trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that that committee should have the ability to dictate the wants and needs of my individual agency. And I will never cede that authority. I will never champion that to anybody above me in my organization. No other agency in this valley or in this state or in this country can say what is good or what is bad for my agency. If there's something that I want and there's something that I need and my agency authorizes it, we're gonna do it. And then we'll come to the 911 providers and technical team and say, can you provide us with support? And if they say no, we'll find support elsewhere. But never should this group be telling people what they can or can't have.
I think the emerging technologies group was to explore what's available and bring it to the committee to discuss if there's a need for a request for funding, a need for direction to be given to Maricopa region to pursue these items. I don't think anyone was in the emerging technologies group, what few meetings that were ever held, ever thought that they were empowered to dictate anything. But again, there's a lot of these working groups and so forth that essentially are defunct, that are not functional at this point because there's people stressed for being able to attend the meetings. There's difficulty digesting, the information that's presented. There's turnover. I think the previous chairperson overseeing some of the working groups on various groups, they've moved on. So is the PSAP Managers Committee going to support those working groups to provide direction to the group and our teams to support what you're doing? Because at this point, we're doing our best. We can't stop moving forward with budgets and going through making sure that we have the support for the equipment and the systems that we have to operate right now, all at the same time when we have salespeople and a small office at the state coming in trying to redirect everyone. We understand that Motorola bought Vesta. There's a lot of relationships with Motorola, and there's a lot of salesmanship going on there. I don't think everyone understands the integration levels that were mentioned earlier about not having to log into this, or whether or not some of these products are standards based and so forth. Some of these working groups would be able to flesh that out and bring that information to the committee, just like a budget working group would be able to flesh out detail that not necessarily everyone in the committee would have time on their own to flesh out and bring the working group committee results
Michael,
to the actual larger PSAB committee.
Michael, I'm going to redirect the conversation because I think you waylaid what the intent of the discussion topic is. It's not about the working groups at all. I want to clarify, this is not a critique of the working group, emerging technology, budget, or otherwise. Those working groups are a part of our committee, and as such should then take upon whatever topic it is that we task them with. The topic of this is that items were brought forth before the 911 Oversight Committee that sits above our committee for discussion and possible action that did not vet it through our group first. So unless there are other comments to this, I don't want this to be belabored. The intent was to bring awareness and education to our group because you guys are smart enough. And I don't think there's trouble digesting any information that's placed before you. But my request, and is it Aubrey? Aubrey, I'm not quite exactly sure what your position is, but my statement then is, just as my agenda topic was vetted through MAG and my intergovs before it was placed on the agenda, if there's an item on the oversight committee that is it being vetted, can it be vetted before it is placed out there?
I will take that back to Nathan, who staffs the committee, and see what that process is. Obviously, as part of a discussion on an item, people can bring stuff up. I mean, we don't control what they say about a specific item. And so I can't say that it would never come up.
And I can appreciate that. Thank you.
But I will certainly raise that.
Loretta Hadlock has her hand up.
Mine was just on the emerging technologies, just so that you guys are aware, I'm part of that group. And yeah, when Mike Folio left, we didn't have very much information that was provided to us. I think the most that we had was the what 3 words. So if the information is something that we need to go research, okay, let us know that. But I mean, or if what we see at different conferences and that. But if it's something that the group brings to us, we'll provide the pros and cons. That's part of our job. And that's probably something that each one of us actually looks at to see if it'll be a benefit to any of the agencies or our agency. And we can bring that information back and we listen back to the group. So that's something that needs to be provided to that group. It's not provided. We kind of sit there and it's not defunct. It's just that we have no information that has been requested or us to look at. So I wanted to just clarify that information too.
Thanks, Loretta. Audrey.
Thank you, Chair. Since that's that might be a more appropriate for a future agenda item if we want to talk about the purpose and the meanings of the working groups and how they go, because I know you have some critical items that you still need to get to. So I would suggest that maybe that you might want to move that to a future agenda if you want to have an in-detail discussion about those things.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Weber. We're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 9. This is going to be discussion on upcoming Super Bowl information. I know we're right in the midst of it. I'm going to have Vice Chair Karen Sutherland lead the discussion with anything she might have.
Thanks, Brittany. So as everybody is aware, we're in the biggest event week that probably ever exists in our valley, and it's taking over quite a bit of our valley. So when we were preparing to do that, one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we had covered was if one of our agencies, and I was particularly looking for a contingency plan for Scottsdale, but so the scenario is perhaps somebody was to have some sort of explosion or active shooter situation or something big that would happen at our Waste Management Open. We're expecting 400,000 people each day on Friday and Saturday. So, and they're all on an 18-hole golf course. So things could erupt very quickly. So I worked specifically with Chandler, and then we brought others into the mix. And we wanted to put together a plan where if Scottsdale's system became overwhelmed, we could have some control over the chaos. We knew that MCSO, being primarily downtown with Phoenix, would probably be working anything big that happened there. And we knew the West Valley agencies would have their own things that were happening. So what we put into play was that if something huge happened in Scottsdale, then we would fill most of our lines, 16 to be exact, and then calls would start moving to Chandler. Our supervisor would make an announcement over PSAP, and hopefully this won't happen, but we're only halfway through the week. that we are responding to the scene of whatever at this location. We would notify East Valley agencies that they may end up taking calls, and we ask that they do not transfer those calls back to Scottsdale, that they would collect contact information from callers for investigative purposes and advise us over PSAP of any emergency situations that required an immediate response. So we brought MR 911 into the picture, worked with Mike Benjamin, and after Scottsdale obtains 16 simultaneous calls, then the following 12 lines over at Chandler become a load share between Chandler and Scottsdale. And what that means is that both agencies would be receiving 911 calls that could be from either agency. If that continues and additional calls are still coming in, and this is all simultaneous, because anytime Scottsdale opens up one of their 16 calls, another call would come into them. Same thing with Chandler. They have 12 lines and things would start rolling into them. So beyond that, then 6 calls each would roll to Tempe, Gilbert, and Salt River in that order. And that would pretty much fill the East Valley. That would cover 50 simultaneous 911 calls at once, which completely overtakes the amount of call takers that we all have anyway. So the 51st line would get a busy signal. So I'm only reporting this as information for you guys as to what we did. The agencies in the East Valley that are impacted or have already agreed to all of this, so it's informational only. And if anybody has any questions on how we came up with it or anything, I'll entertain those.
Thank you, Karen. That's very good information. Anybody have any questions or comments on what she shared?
Karen, do you have a written plan?
I do. I can share that if you'd like.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Sutherland. We'll go ahead and move to agenda item number 10. The next item is an update on the activities of the 911 Study Committee. Audrey Skidmore, MAG Information and Technology Director, will provide this update.
Thank you, Chair. I will keep this brief in the interest of time. I wanted to let you know that the study committee had indeed selected Federal Engineering as the consultant to do the study. I just had an initial meeting just on coordination with them. We do have a schedule. They will be hopefully doing the interviews. They will be contacting you to schedule those the first 2 weeks of March. They're going to actually be introduced at the study committee meeting on the 21st. But we will be having them meet with the PSAP managers, the 911 oversight committee member or equivalent. We've asked for those to be identified by the agencies, and the city manager or their designee, to get a picture of your ideal 911 system. What is it you want it to look like, so that they can start to evaluate the available options and technologies after they do their peer region reviews and come back with some recommendations and summaries. So that is the current plan of how to move forward. They're also collecting just an inventory of what everybody actually has. I will get Maricopa Region 911 to take the first cut at that. Obviously, you'll review that as well, but in the interest of saving your time, since they have a lot of that anyway, we'll get the first cut from them and make that review more efficient. And that concludes my update for now. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Audrey Dell with Tempe. So just to clarify for this part, you're taking information to put forward a proposal, what we would like a 911 PSAP to look like in the future?
Yes. So the point of the study committee is kind of to decide the direction moving forward, how the region wants to move forward. And so the first task is to assess what everybody actually wants. Like in an ideal world, what would you want? And then what kind of trade-offs are you willing to make because obviously we're probably not going to get everything we want. And so it's more in a forward-looking vision. In the second phase, they're actually doing assessments. So they're collecting information already, or they will be in the next week or so, on how our existing system is set up, where everything actually is, what we actually have, and what's available to us. So they're going to be looking at what technologies are available through the state, what we actually have, what other agencies around the country that are set up in a similar manner and have similar size are doing. And then they're going to be evaluating those and combinations of those options against what people actually want and bringing that back. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So is this part, like when I think of an I1 PSAP center, I mean, I can think very broadly as far as room setups. Are we just talking technologies? Are we talking hardware equipment?
So I think the questions will be different at the different levels. So I assume, they're probably not asking how you want your workstations laid out so much as like, what features do you want? What technologies do you want available to you? How do you want to be able to transfer those calls between centers and have that failover? And so more functional questions, while the questions they ask this, like a city manager, might be more, what's most important to you? Reliability, functionality, the bigger policy kind of trade-offs, and more direct questions for the PSAP managers, and something in between.
Thank you. That answered. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Skidmore. We'll move to agenda item number 11. This will be the report on statewide activities. Ms. Graber will provide an update on the outreach to the Arizona 911 office.
I don't think I need to report anything else. With I already went over that we're meeting, and they'll hopefully we'll get some participation in our PSAP managers meeting.
Thank you. Next item is agenda item number 12, a report from the MR911 technical team. Mike Benjamin, the 911 technical manager, will provide this report.
I'll try to make this real quick here. We're, of course, working with Phoenix PD on their new building, quotes and so forth for Phoenix PD and Luke projects, various PSAPs, doing some furniture and remodel projects, and the lots of testing and so forth for the next gen core services stuff. The core services part of it, the full-fledged core services part, is on hold, as was mentioned prior, but we're still testing the equipment that has been newly installed out to the PSAPs, because an interim step is to get off of the Lumen equipment, and those steps continue. I think I'll keep it short unless there's specific questions about any of those activities or items I mentioned.
Any questions or comments from the membership on anything of that? Okay. Agenda item number 13. Are there any requests from members for an item on a future agenda that we haven't already identified? Okay. Next item, we'll move to that. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership? Okay.
Brittany.
Go.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Kim.
Was it formally adopted that we will address the mission, purpose, vision of this PSAP committee as well as the working groups, as Audrey suggested?
It's up to the committee to decide if they want to do that. I was just suggesting that if you wanted to have that discussion, it wasn't under the existing item and that you would need to agendize it separately.
I like that suggestion. Can we put that in for a future agenda item, please?
I agree. Yes. Jim Stillwell, go ahead.
Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One, I will start with the good stuff. So the state APCONINA chapter is holding a golf tournament to raise funds for our scholarship fund. That's going to be on April 6th. The chapter's website has further information and registration available. Also, the chapter is sponsoring a statewide dispatcher career fair. That is going to be April 15th. Again, additional information is available on the chapter website. The state training conference is well underway being planned. Basic information is available on the chapter website as well. And then I will move on to the maybe not so good stuff. I assume and accept that probably everybody on this committee's time is just as valuable as mine is. However, I feel that we are consistently spending 2 hours every couple of months in these meetings and get nothing accomplished. I really would like to see this committee start having action items that actually get follow through. I will give an example. These work groups were formed last year, and my agency is part of the outreach and education work group. And I have not heard from the chair, the vice chair, nor the 911 administrator for when we were going to have our first meeting. So I took it upon myself today, and I've reached out to my fellow agencies to say, hey, when can we meet? Because again, it seems like we're spinning wheels, and my time is way too valuable to come to these meetings and just spin wheels constantly. So my recommendation would be that when there's action delegated from these meetings, that action occur and that follow up on that action occur. And again, I'll get off my soapbox.
Jim, would you let us know if you want a standing agenda item then for your working group for the April meeting?
Will do. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Shauna,
Shauna,
Henry, quick comment.
go ahead, Shauna.
Would it be possible to send out the list of agencies and which working group they're on? There's been a lot of turnover in recent months and years, and people may not know what committee they're on. So that would be helpful.
I know Karen had, I believe, she could correct me if I'm wrong, sent it out, but we'll send it out again.
Yeah, it was several months ago, and I believe we do have quite a few new members. So we'll take I guess it was just December, but I think we have a few more at the table now.
Yeah, we'll get that out.
And Karen, if you just want to forward your original, it was November 7th, the email was sent.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. So the next meeting of the PSAP Managers Group will be on Thursday, April 13th at 10 a.m. With no further business, today's meeting is adjourned.